Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Blake? What? Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Hey, Aaron, it's Nancy, or as most people know me.
I'm Bart Simpson. What's happening?
Yeah, the kid who questions authority. The kid who says,
"Don't have a cow, man,"
when people tell him what to do. The kid who's literally famous for challenging the system. Funny how that works, isn't it? I've spent decades giving voice to a character who represents rebellion, free thinking, and pushing back against control. And then I go write checks for millions of dollars to an organization that punishes people for doing exactly that. The irony's pretty thick. I get it. I've done robocalls as Bart Simpson promoting Scientology, which, yeah, looking back, using a beloved cartoon character to recruit people into something they can't easily leave. Not my proudest moment. Aaron, I need to talk about Clearwater, because here's the thing most people don't realize. Scientology doesn't just operate in Clearwater, it owns Clearwater. I don't mean that figuratively. I mean Scientology owns more property in downtown Clearwater than anyone else. Buildings, lots, entire blocks, and most of them empty. It's not about using the space. It's about control. It's about making sure no one else can have it. When I've driven through downtown, I see it. Beautiful buildings locked up. No businesses, no community. Just monuments to David Miscavige's ego with Church of Scientology etched on the front. And the city? The actual people who live there, they're watching their downtown die while being told it's expansion. That's what you're fighting against every Friday night, Aaron, not just an organization, a political machine, a real estate empire masquerading as a religion. And David Miscavige, he's not just the leader of Scientology, he's effectively the most powerful unelected official in Clearwater. He doesn't run for office, but he has more influence over that city than almost anyone who does. How does that happen? How does one person get that much control? Money, lawyers, intimidation, and people like me writing checks and not asking questions. I helped fund that control. My millions went into buying those buildings, into hiring those lawyers, into the apparatus that keeps Clearwater under Scientology's thumb and keeps critics like you under surveillance. And here's what really gets me. I thought I was supporting a spiritual organization. I thought my money was going toward helping people. Instead, it bought silence. It bought influence. It bought a city. But Aaron, what you're doing is exposing something that Miscavige desperately doesn't want people to see. The emperor has no clothes. The buildings are empty. The expansion is a facade. And the most ethical group on the planet needs private investigators, lawyers, and intimidation to handle one guy with a camera telling his story. Think about that ratio for a second. Billions of dollars, thousands of staff, a fleet of lawyers, global real estate holdings versus Aaron Smith Levin, a camera, and the truth. And you're the one they're afraid of. That tells you everything you need to know about who's really winning. What you're doing with your YouTube channel, with the Clearwater protests, with the SPTV Foundation, you're not just exposing abuse. You're teaching people how to think critically again. Because that's what Scientology takes from you first, critical thinking. They replace it with policy, with acceptable truths, with if it's not written by LRH, it's suppressive. You're standing there every Friday saying, look with your own eyes, ask your own questions, you're allowed to think. Aaron, you've made it impossible for people to unsee what Clearwater has become. You've documented it, you've explained it, you've made it undeniable. And that's the difference you're making. You're giving people the information they need to wake up, to see that the billions in donations aren't going to clearing the planet, they're going to buying control. So to everyone watching this, inside or out, Aaron's work isn't about tearing something down, it's about telling the truth, about giving you permission to trust your own eyes and ask your own questions. Miscavige has money and power and buildings, but Aaron has something more powerful. He has the truth. And he's not afraid to stand in downtown Clearwater every Friday and speak it. The buildings may be empty, Aaron, but your message isn't. You're not doing this for clicks. You're doing this for the staff member who hasn't slept in 3 days. For the parent who hasn't heard their kid's voice in 5 years, for the Sea Org member who's been told he signed away his eternity, you're showing them something dangerous, that leaving Scientology is possible, that the world doesn't end when you walk out that door, that life actually starts when you stop asking for permission to think. Scientology tells members you are nothing without us. You're out there saying you are everything without Scientology. And that, my friend, is why they're losing their minds over your Friday night protests at Flag. So keep standing out there, keep speaking, keep being the problem they can't solve. Because while they're worried about suppressive persons, you're out here creating free people. Don't stop, not now, not ever.
Aaron, I've driven past your Friday night protests in Clearwater more than once, sometimes in a hurry, sometimes slower than I should. And every time I do, there's this moment where I think about slowing down, rolling down the window, just saying something. But I don't. I keep driving. And I think you know why. Because in Scientology, there's always that calculation happening in your head. If I stop, if I acknowledge them, if I even look too long, someone's watching, someone's reporting, and then what? You know, that's not freedom. That's fear with a smile on it. I've been around Scientology a long time, Aaron. I've seen people vanish from each other's lives. I've seen families stop speaking over ethics. I've seen good people suddenly become untouchable because they asked the wrong question at the wrong time. And the thing is, I know what you're doing out there isn't hate. It isn't chaos. It isn't some obsessed vendetta like they'd love people to believe. You're just there, standing, telling your story, giving people information they're not allowed to have inside Scientology. And that terrifies them more than anything, because if it was all lies, if you were just some suppressive making things up, Scientology wouldn't need to fair game you. They'd just ignore you, but they can't, because you're telling the truth, and worse, you're telling it consistently, every single Friday like clockwork. That's the thing about truth, Aaron. It doesn't need to yell. You know what I think about when I drive past you guys outside Flag? I think about all the people still inside Scientology who are one conversation away from waking up, one YouTube video away, one Friday night drive through Clearwater away from seeing something that makes them ask, wait, why are they so afraid of these people? I think about the staff members working 100 hours a week for pennies, being told it's exchange and service. I think about the parents who haven't spoken to their kids in years because someone told them that was ethical, like Flavio Lugli. That's not spirituality, Aaron. That's control disguised as purpose. And what you're doing with your activism, with the Clearwater crew, with your YouTube channel, growing up in Scientology, the SPTV Foundation, you're offering Scientologists the one thing Scientology never does. A way out with no conditions, no sec checks, no ethics officers, just, hey, if you want to leave, we'll help you. No judgment. That's real compassion. That's real help. So even though I keep driving, I want you to know that somewhere in that Mercedes going past Flag on a Friday night, there's a guy who sees what you're doing, who understands you, who respects you, and who is grateful that you're still standing there for the people who are still calculating the cost and aren't ready to stop yet. I fully support you, Aaron, because every time you're out there, you're proving that life after Scientology isn't just possible, it's better. And who knows, maybe one Friday, I'll actually stop. I'm wishing you all the best, Aaron. I hope you get out soon. Stay positive.
Aaron, I need to tell you something that's been sitting with me for a long time. As every day I stepped on set and played June Osborne, a woman trapped in a totalitarian system, told what to think, what to say, who she's allowed to talk to, a woman punished for asking questions, for wanting freedom. And then I went home, and I'm part of something that does exactly that to people. The irony is not lost on me. People ask all the time, how can you play this role and be a Scientologist? And honestly, that's a fair question. Because when I read scripts about Gilead, families torn apart, thought control, people declared unpeople, I'm reading about things that happen in Scientology too, disconnection, suppressive person declares, knowledge reports, just different words for the same control. In Gilead, they call you a traitor. In Scientology, they call you an SP. Same thing, different uniform. And when I see what you're doing every Friday in Clearwater, standing there peacefully with the Clearwater crew, telling the truth, helping people get out, I see exactly what that system fears most. Someone who escaped and is now showing others the way out. You're literally doing what June does, except this isn't television. This is real. Most people inside Scientology aren't evil. They're just scared, indoctrinated, terrified. That one wrong question, one wrong conversation, one wrong thought will cost them their family, their friends, their entire world. That isn't religion. That's Gilead with better real estate. And yet every Friday, there you are holding up a mirror and saying, look at what you've become. With growing up in Scientology, with the SPTV Foundation, with the Clearwater Crew, you're creating an underground railroad for people who want their lives back. You're proving there is life after disconnection, after control, after fear. And to anyone still inside Scientology, especially anyone who loved The Handmaid's Tale, ask yourself this. If you watched disconnection, surveillance, and thought control happen on a TV show and called it evil, why are you okay with it in real life? Aaron, thank you for doing what June would do, what I should be doing. Hopefully you can join the Clearwater Crew outside Flag soon. Stay positive, keep fighting, keep telling the truth about Scientology. No light, T. bastardes carborundorum. Don't let the bastards grind you down.
Aaron, I've seen a lot of stunts in my career. Motorcycle chases, building climbs, planes, explosions, you name it, but what you're doing every Friday night in downtown Clearwater. That's the real edge of your seat stuff. Standing outside Flag, lights on, cameras rolling, Clearwater Crew in formation, just calm, peaceful truth, staring down a billion-dollar belief system. That takes more guts than hanging off a plane at 30,000 feet. And let's be honest, somewhere behind those locked doors and marble floors, David Miscavige is probably pacing in lift shoes, asking, why are there people out there with signs? Don't they know about our stats? Because that's the thing they never planned for, right? They planned for silence, for disconnection, for people staying scared of being declared. They built a whole policy on it. But they did not plan for you, your camera, and a crew that refuses to disappear. What I love most, you're not out there with anger or chaos. You're out there with truth, humor, and the one thing they don't know how to deal with, people who aren't afraid of being suppressive anymore. That's what makes Scientology nervous. Not noise, not chaos, just steady, undeniable truth. Every single Friday like clockwork. To any Scientologist still inside Flag or walking past those buildings, thinking, I shouldn't look over there, ask yourself this. If Scientology is really operating at tone 40, like they claim, if they're so operating Dayton, so powerful, so cause over matter, why does one quiet protest outside Flag send them into panic mode? Why is David Miscavige melting down over a few people and some cardboard signs? Aaron, what you're doing with the Clearwater Crew, your YouTube channel growing up in Scientology, the SPTV Foundation. You're not just exposing something. You're giving people permission to think for themselves again. And that is far more powerful than any course completion or OT level. So from one guy who knows a thing or two about impossible missions, keep showing up to the most important one of all. Clearwater, Fridays, same time, same truth. Keep smiling. Keep telling the truth. Keep asking questions Scientology don't want asked. But because the louder their buildings get, the more people are going to start listening to you. And hey, if Miscavige really wants to stop the protests so badly, he could always just try answering some questions. I hear transparency is very own trend right now.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.